Today, I'm going to reveal 5 behavioral shifts that often appear when a woman hasn't experienced intimacy for an extended period. And pay attention because the final sign is the most powerful. It's the one that separates men who remain stuck as just friends from those she truly desires romantically. Let's begin. Hello, I'm Mary Smith, and welcome to Mindful Senior Living. On this channel, we explore the deeper layers of human psychology, relationships, emotional intelligence, and the subtle dynamics that shape the way people connect with one another. And if you've ever found yourself wondering whether someone's behavior carries a deeper meaning, if you've ever sensed a shift in someone's energy but couldn't quite explain it, then what we're going to explore today may open your eyes to signals that most people overlook entirely. Because the truth is, human beings rarely communicate desire, loneliness, or emotional curiosity in direct words, especially when it comes to intimacy. For many women, especially those who value emotional safety, attraction and longing rarely appear through obvious declarations. Instead, they reveal themselves through quiet behavioral shifts, changes in body language, tone, attention, and emotional presence. When a person goes a long time without meaningful intimacy, not just physical intimacy, but emotional closeness as well, the mind and body begin searching for connection again, not aggressively, not dramatically, but subtly. The mind becomes more aware of warmth, the body becomes more responsive to attention, and small interactions begin carrying more emotional meaning than they once did. What makes these signals fascinating is that they are rarely loud or dramatic. Instead, they appear in the quiet spaces between words, in lingering glances, in slightly longer conversations, in moments where someone seems just a little more present than before. And unless you understand what you're looking at, it's easy to dismiss these behaviors as random. But psychology tells us something different. Researchers who study human bonding have long observed that people who go extended periods without affection often become more sensitive to potential connection. The brain begins noticing opportunities for warmth, validation, and emotional closeness. And when the right person appears, the change can happen quietly. Not through a confession, not through a dramatic moment, but through behavior. So today, we're going to explore 5 subtle signs that often appear when a woman hasn't experienced intimacy for a long time. Signals that reveal emotional curiosity, psychological openness, and a renewed desire for connection. Now let's begin with the first signal, one that is surprisingly powerful, yet incredibly easy to overlook. Touch becomes a quiet form of communication. When a woman goes a long time without meaningful physical closeness, her body can enter what psychologists sometimes describe as skin hunger. This isn't simply a poetic phrase, it's a real biological response. Human skin contains thousands of nerve endings connected to emotional processing centers in the brain. Gentle, safe touch releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, which creates feelings of warmth, trust, and connection. When someone has gone a long time without that experience, the body doesn't forget. Instead, it begins craving it again. But here's where it becomes interesting. Rather than asking for physical closeness directly, many women express this need through subtle, almost instinctive gestures. She might briefly touch your arm while laughing. She might lightly adjust your sleeve or collar. She might allow her shoulder to brush yours when sitting close. And in many cases, these touches last just a moment longer than necessary. Now here's the important part most people never realize. These gestures are rarely random. Often, she is unconsciously observing your reaction. Your body language becomes information for her. If you suddenly stiffen, pull away, or act uncomfortable, her brain may interpret that as rejection or lack of interest. And once that signal registers, many women instinctively withdraw. But if you remain relaxed, if you respond naturally, if your energy stays warm and comfortable, something interesting happens. Her nervous system interprets that response as safety, and emotional safety is the foundation of attraction. You see, attraction doesn't usually grow through forceful advances or dramatic gestures. It grows through small moments of comfort and mutual awareness. Think about a simple real-life example. Imagine you're sitting beside someone during a casual conversation. She laughs at something you say and briefly places her hand on your arm. Now an inexperienced man might freeze in that moment, unsure what to do. Another man might immediately try to escalate the situation awkwardly. But the emotionally intelligent response is much simpler. You stay relaxed. You smile. You maintain the flow of conversation as though the moment feels completely natural. That calm reaction communicates something very powerful. You are comfortable with closeness. And comfort with closeness creates emotional ease. When two people share that ease, attraction has room to grow naturally. This is why subtle touch often becomes the first quiet signal of emotional curiosity. Not necessarily desire yet, but openness. Now, before we continue, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed moments like this in your own life? A brief touch, a slightly longer gesture, a moment that felt small yet somehow meaningful? If you have, share your experience in the comments. Now let's move into the second sign, because this one reveals something deeper. Not physical curiosity, but emotional curiosity. She begins looking for consistent emotional reassurance. When a woman hasn't received meaningful masculine attention for a long time, it can create a quiet emotional gap. This gap isn't necessarily about vanity or ego, it's about connection. Human beings are deeply social creatures. Our emotional well-being depends on feeling seen, understood, and appreciated by others. When that experience is missing for long periods, the mind naturally begins searching for it again. And when she encounters someone who feels emotionally stable, she may begin opening small windows into her inner world. This often appears through questions that seem casual on the surface. She might say something like, "Do you think I handled that situation badly?" Or, "Am I too intense sometimes?" Now, here's where many men misunderstand the moment. They treat the question like a technical problem that needs solving. They respond quickly with something dismissive like, "No, you're fine." But what she is often looking for isn't a quick answer. She's looking for emotional recognition. She wants to know if you see her, if you understand her personality, if you're capable of engaging with her emotional world. And when a man responds thoughtfully, not critically, but attentively, something powerful happens. For example, instead of saying, "You're fine," you might say something like, "You strike me as someone who feels things deeply." And honestly, that's rare these days. Now notice what that response does. It acknowledges her emotional experience, it validates her personality, and it communicates that you're paying attention. That level of awareness immediately separates you from the majority of people she interacts with. Because in modern social life, genuine emotional listening has become surprisingly rare. People are quick to talk, quick to judge, quick to offer advice. But someone who truly listens, someone who responds with calm understanding, that person becomes memorable. And memorability is one of the early foundations of attraction. Now the third sign begins to appear at a deeper level, within her body language itself. Her body language subtly changes around strong masculine presence. This stage is particularly fascinating from a psychological perspective. When someone has gone a long time without intimacy, the brain's attraction system, specifically the limbic system, can become more sensitive to signals of potential connection. It's almost as if the mind becomes more alert to emotional possibility, and because of this, the body often begins expressing interest before words ever do. You might notice she adjusts her hair more often while speaking with you. She may cross and uncross her legs repeatedly during conversation. She might lean slightly toward you even when sitting at a distance. These are what psychologists call micro-expressions of attention. They are small, unconscious behaviors that reveal where someone's focus truly lies. But here's the mistake many men make at this stage. They assume these signals mean it's time to push forward aggressively, and that reaction often destroys the natural rhythm of attraction. Attraction behaves more like a dance than a race. It develops through rhythm, balance, and subtle mirroring. So if she leans slightly towards you, you lean forward just a bit as well. If she creates a moment of playful eye contact, you hold it comfortably for a second longer. You're not overpowering the moment. You're simply matching the emotional energy. And when two people fall into that rhythm, the interaction begins to feel natural, effortless, even magnetic. That feeling, that sense that conversation flows easily and presence feels comfortable, is often the first stage of genuine chemistry. And when a woman begins experiencing that feeling after a long period without intimacy, her interest can grow surprisingly quickly. But now we come to something even more revealing, because the fourth sign isn't about attraction at all. At least not directly. It's about trust, and trust is the gateway through which all deeper connection must pass. When a woman has been emotionally or romantically alone for a long time, something very natural begins to happen inside her psychological world. She becomes more cautious about who she allows close to her inner life, not because she has lost interest in connection, but because experience has taught her that emotional safety matters more than temporary excitement. This is why the fourth signal often appears quietly and unexpectedly. She begins evaluating your emotional stability. Now, this is something many men misunderstand completely. They assume attraction grows simply through confidence, humor, or physical chemistry. And while those things certainly play a role, long-term emotional attraction grows through something far deeper. Consistency. A woman who has been alone for a long period often develops a strong instinct for observing behavior. She watches how someone reacts to pressure, disagreement, vulnerability, and emotional complexity, and she does this in subtle ways. For example, she might share something personal about her life. Maybe a past disappointment, a difficult family situation, or a moment where she felt misunderstood by others. And then she watches your reaction carefully, not your words alone, your energy. Do you immediately try to solve the problem like it's a technical puzzle? Do you dismiss her feelings or shift the conversation away from the emotional depth she just revealed? Or do you stay calm, listen patiently, and respond with understanding? Emotional maturity reveals itself most clearly in moments like these. Imagine a situation where she says something like, "Sometimes I feel like people expect me to always be strong, and it gets exhausting." Now, a rushed response might sound like, "Well, you just need to stop worrying about what people think." But a grounded response might sound very different. You might say something like, "That sounds like a heavy expectation to carry all the time. Most people don't realize how tiring it can be to always appear strong." Notice the difference. One response dismisses the emotional experience, the other acknowledges it. And when someone feels emotionally acknowledged, something powerful happens inside the brain. The nervous system relaxes. The person feels seen rather than judged. For a woman who has gone a long time without emotional closeness, that moment of feeling understood can be incredibly meaningful. And sometimes she will test this emotional stability more directly, not in a manipulative way, but in a curious way. She might introduce a small disagreement during conversation. Perhaps she challenges one of your opinions or makes a slightly provocative comment just to observe how you respond. Do you become defensive? Do you raise your voice? Do you try to dominate the conversation? Or do you remain composed, thoughtful, and respectful even when perspectives differ? This kind of composure communicates something extremely attractive. It signals emotional security. And emotional security creates psychological safety. When someone feels safe expressing their authentic self without fear of judgment, emotional walls begin to lower. This is why the most attractive quality a man can possess in many situations isn't aggression or bravado, it's calm confidence. The ability to remain steady when emotions enter the conversation. Because intimacy, real intimacy, requires emotional steadiness from both people involved. Now, before we move forward, I want to pause for a moment and invite you to reflect on something. Have you ever noticed how certain people make conversations feel calm and comfortable, while others create tension even when nothing serious is happening? That difference often comes down to emotional grounding. And emotional grounding is something that becomes incredibly attractive to someone who has spent a long time without meaningful connection. Now, this brings us to the fifth and most powerful signal, and this one changes everything. Because instead of simply observing you, instead of simply interacting casually, she begins creating opportunities. Subtle opportunities for connection to grow naturally. This is where emotional curiosity quietly turns into intentional interaction. When a woman feels drawn to someone but still wants the interaction to feel natural and comfortable, she rarely says something direct like, "I want to spend time alone with you." Instead, she creates situations where that closeness can happen organically. For example, she might say something like, "I could really use your help with something at my place." Or perhaps, I've been wanting to watch this movie, but honestly, I don't feel like watching it alone. These invitations are often framed in socially comfortable ways. They don't carry pressure, and they allow both people to maintain emotional ease. But psychologically, they represent something important: trust. She is creating space where private conversation and deeper interaction can occur. Now here is where maturity makes all the difference. An inexperienced man often misreads this moment completely. He assumes the invitation automatically means something romantic must happen immediately. And that mindset creates pressure that can quickly make a woman uncomfortable. But a confident, emotionally intelligent man understands something deeper. Connection unfolds step by step. So when you spend time together in these situations, the goal isn't to rush anything. The goal is comfort, conversation, laughter, shared presence. You allow the moment to breathe. You talk about everyday things, maybe share stories, maybe laugh about something small and silly. You let the atmosphere feel relaxed rather than intense. And what often happens next is fascinating. When emotional safety exists, physical closeness often develops naturally. She may sit a little closer. The conversation may slow down into comfortable silence. Her body language may open even more. These moments can't be forced. They appear naturally when the emotional environment feels safe. And the man who understands this rhythm becomes deeply memorable. Because most people rush connection, very few people allow it to unfold. And when someone experiences that kind of calm presence after a long period without intimacy, the emotional impact can be surprisingly strong. But here's something even more interesting. The signals we've discussed so far, touch, emotional curiosity, body language, testing emotional stability, and creating opportunities, are only part of the story. Because when someone has gone a long time without intimacy, the changes don't stop at those initial signs. In fact, there is an earlier phase that often appears before all of them, a phase so subtle that most people overlook it completely. It begins quietly, without announcement. There is no confession, no clear statement of interest, just a shift, a small change in the atmosphere between two people. A woman who normally keeps conversations brief might suddenly linger a little longer when speaking with you. Her eye contact might last just a second or two longer than usual. She might smile more often even when the conversation itself isn't particularly humorous. These changes seem small, almost meaningless on the surface. But in psychology, patterns of behavior tell a story. And when someone has gone a long time without affection, emotional attention begins carrying more weight. The mind starts scanning social interactions differently. It becomes more aware of who listens, who notices, who responds warmly. This is why the first signal in this earlier phase is often energy. The emotional atmosphere around the interaction begins to change. She may appear more engaged in conversation, more curious about your opinions, more responsive to things you say, not dramatically, just slightly. Her tone might soften, her posture may become more open, she may angle her body toward you during conversation. These are natural human signals of attention and emotional openness. They often happen automatically when someone feels drawn toward another person. And what makes them fascinating is that they rarely happen consciously. They are the body's quiet language of curiosity. Psychologically, this happens because intimacy is not purely physical. It is deeply connected to emotional validation. When someone spends a long time without feeling appreciated, desired, or emotionally understood, their inner world begins craving those experiences again. The mind begins searching for them. But instead of openly asking for affection, most people create situations where affection might naturally appear. They extend conversations. They maintain eye contact. They allow moments of silence that feel comfortable instead of awkward. And through these small behaviors, emotional closeness begins building quietly. For many men, these signals are easy to miss because they expect attraction to appear through dramatic gestures or direct expressions. But human communication is rarely that simple. A woman who is curious about someone after a long period without intimacy often tests the emotional waters first. She observes how you respond to her presence. Do you engage with her energy? Do you maintain conversation? Or do you quickly move on without noticing the subtle shift? These early interactions give her valuable information. They tell her whether deeper connection might be possible. This is why the beginning often feels mysterious. Nothing obvious has been said, and yet something feels different. The conversation flows more naturally. Eye contact feels heavier with meaning, and her presence seems slightly more intentional. These quiet behavioral shifts are often the earliest signals of emotional curiosity awakening again after a long period of distance. Understanding these subtle cues allows you to notice something that most people miss entirely, and once you start seeing these patterns, you begin to understand human interaction on a completely different level. But the story doesn't end there, because when curiosity continues growing, another fascinating change begins to appear in her behavior. Her presence becomes more alive around you. One of the most noticeable changes begins to appear in the way her presence suddenly feels more alive when you are around. A woman who has gone a long time without intimacy rarely expresses that shift with direct statements. Instead, it reveals itself through subtle changes in her energy, her attentiveness, and the way she participates in conversation. At first, the change can be so small that it almost feels like coincidence. Perhaps she seems slightly more cheerful during your interactions. Maybe she becomes more talkative than usual. Or maybe she begins responding to your comments with a little more enthusiasm than before. These moments might appear insignificant on their own, but when they repeat over time, they begin forming a pattern, and patterns in human behavior are rarely accidental. One of the earliest layers of this shift is playfulness. Instead of maintaining purely neutral or polite conversation, she might begin teasing you lightly. Perhaps she jokes about something you said earlier, or she playfully challenges your opinion during a discussion. Now, teasing may seem simple, even childish at times, but psychologically, it serves a powerful function in human relationships. Playfulness creates emotional tension in a safe and comfortable way. It invites attention. It creates a back-and-forth dynamic where both people become more engaged with each other. When someone hasn't experienced romantic closeness for a long time, playful interaction can feel refreshing. It allows emotional curiosity to grow without requiring vulnerability. Think about it like this. Directly expressing attraction can feel risky. It exposes a person to the possibility of rejection. But humor and teasing allow emotional energy to develop in a lighter way. Through playful comments, she can observe how you react. Do you laugh with her? Do you respond with your own playful energy? Or do you become overly serious and shut the moment down? These small interactions give her information about whether emotional chemistry exists between the two of you. Another interesting change appears in how attentive she becomes. You may notice that she starts remembering small details you mentioned earlier in conversation. Perhaps you casually talked about a project you were working on, and days later, she asks how it's going. Or maybe you mentioned a favorite hobby, and she brings it up again in a later discussion. When someone remembers details like this, it means your words are staying in their mind. Their attention is invested, and attention is one of the earliest signs of emotional interest. The brain begins associating that person with emotional reward. This is why remembering small details often strengthens connection. It shows that the interaction mattered enough to remain present in memory. Another subtle but powerful shift often appears in eye contact. Instead of quick, casual glances, her gaze might linger a little longer than before. Now, eye contact is one of the oldest forms of human communication. Long before words are spoken, the eyes convey curiosity, attention, and emotional openness. When someone holds eye contact just a second longer than usual, it often signals something deeper than simple conversation. It signals awareness. She is not just hearing your words. She is studying how you speak, how you react, and how you carry yourself in the moment. These quiet observations allow her to understand your emotional presence. And for someone who has gone a long time without intimacy, these moments of deeper eye contact can feel exciting and slightly vulnerable at the same time, because eye contact creates emotional exposure. It allows two people to see each other beyond the surface. You might also begin noticing that she creates more opportunities to interact with you. Perhaps she starts conversations about topics that normally wouldn't require discussion. The subject might be simple or even trivial, but the topic itself isn't the point. The interaction is. When someone seeks connection, they often create small bridges that allow interaction to continue. A quick question, a casual comment, a short observation about something happening nearby. Each of these small moments keeps the thread of connection alive, and when those threads appear repeatedly, they weave a stronger emotional fabric. What makes these signals so fascinating is that they rarely appear all at once. They unfold gradually through repeated interactions. A playful remark here, a curious question there, a moment of deeper eye contact that feels slightly different from before. Individually, each behavior seems ordinary, but together they form a pattern of emotional curiosity. And when you recognize that pattern, you begin understanding something profound about human behavior. People rarely ask for attention directly when they feel emotionally vulnerable. Instead, they create moments where attention can grow naturally. Through humor, through curiosity, through conversation that extends a little longer than necessary. These behaviors function as quiet invitations for connection, and those invitations often appear when someone is rediscovering the desire for closeness. Now let's move a little deeper into this dynamic, because there are moments where something shifts subtly, and most people cannot explain what changed. A conversation once ordinary suddenly carries a different energy. The person across from you seems slightly more engaged, more curious, more present. When a woman hasn't experienced intimacy for a long time, these quiet shifts become the way her mind reaches for connection. One common signal is an increase in small, unnecessary conversations. She might start asking questions that don't really require discussion. Maybe she asks your opinion about something simple. Psychologically, this behavior isn't about the topic. It's about presence. Conversation becomes a bridge that allows emotional closeness to develop gradually. Even ordinary dialogue can feel valuable, because it creates a sense of being seen, being acknowledged, being included in someone else's attention. Another powerful signal is prolonged eye contact. Eye contact is one of the most ancient forms of communication humans possess. Long before language evolved, humans relied on facial expression and gaze to understand emotional intention. When her gaze begins lingering longer than usual, it often reflects deeper curiosity. She is paying attention to who you are. These silent moments of attention can create subtle emotional tension, the kind of tension both people feel but rarely mention. And interestingly, this tension is often what creates the feeling people describe as chemistry. You may also notice she finds reasons to remain nearby. Perhaps the discussion wraps up, but she adds another comment. Psychologically, they reveal a desire to extend the moment. The human mind naturally tries to prolong experiences that feel rewarding. Laughter also becomes more frequent. She may laugh more easily at jokes or respond with warmth stronger than required. Laughter isn't only about humor. It is a powerful bonding mechanism, releasing dopamine and endorphins. This shared emotional release strengthens social bonds and builds closeness without needing to say anything directly. These subtle behaviors, longer conversations, steady eye contact, and frequent laughter often work together to form a quiet invitation. When someone recognizes these signals with patience, the interaction can evolve into something truly meaningful. Now, there is another fascinating behavior: small attention hooks. This reveals something even more intentional about seeking connection. One revealing pattern is how attention is created and maintained. She often begins forming what could be described as small attention hooks. These are subtle actions designed to keep interaction alive without openly revealing the deeper emotional reason behind them. Rather than directly asking for affection, she creates moments that naturally draw the other person back into conversation. On the surface, these interactions appear casual and harmless, but psychologically, they serve an important purpose in building a bridge to the heart. Each interaction keeps the thread of connection alive. When someone has spent a long period without closeness, maintaining that thread becomes emotionally meaningful because it prevents the feeling of distance from returning. Human beings are wired to maintain bonds through repeated small interactions. It's rarely grand gestures that build emotional connection. Instead, it's the accumulation of many small moments of attention over time. Another interesting behavior often appears in the way she reacts to your responses. When you reply with interest, humor, or curiosity, she may quickly build on that energy. Instead of letting the conversation fade naturally, she adds another thought, another comment, another question, and what begins forming is a rhythm. Attention flows back and forth between two people. In human relationships, this rhythm of shared attention becomes the foundation of emotional attraction. Both individuals begin feeling noticed. Both feel engaged. Both experience the subtle psychological reward that comes from meaningful interaction. Over time, the brain begins associating that person with emotional stimulation and comfort at the same time. And when those two feelings combine, attraction often begins forming naturally. You may also notice that the topics of conversation slowly begin shifting toward more meaningful areas. Instead of staying entirely on surface-level subjects, she might begin asking about your opinions, your experiences, or how you see certain aspects of life. These questions aren't always deeply serious, but they open the door to more thoughtful dialogue. For example, she might ask something like, "What motivates you to keep working toward your goals?" Or perhaps she asks, "Do you think people today are more lonely than they used to be?" Now, these kinds of questions reveal something interesting. They show curiosity about the person behind the words. When someone asks about your perspective rather than just basic facts about your life, it signals that they are interested in understanding your mind. Understanding someone's mind is one of the earliest stages of emotional attraction. Because attraction is rarely built purely on appearance, it grows through curiosity about who someone truly is. Body language also becomes an important part of these attention hooks during in-person interaction. When someone is emotionally engaged, the body often reflects that focus without conscious effort. You might notice she leans slightly closer during conversation. Her shoulders may angle toward you rather than away. Her reactions may become more expressive when you speak. These physical cues are often automatic. When someone feels comfortable and attentive, their posture naturally moves toward the person holding their interest. And again, each of these signals may appear ordinary on its own, but when they repeat consistently, they form a clear pattern of emotional engagement. The human mind often communicates desire for connection indirectly because direct vulnerability can feel risky. Admitting loneliness or attraction openly exposes a person to the possibility of rejection. So instead, people create situations where connection can grow gradually and naturally. These attention hooks act as invitations, quiet opportunities for interaction to continue. And when two people respond positively to those invitations, the emotional energy between them slowly begins to build. Now, there is another change that often appears as this connection deepens, a noticeable shift in emotional energy. When someone has gone a long time without intimacy or meaningful affection, their emotional awareness often becomes more sensitive to moments of connection. This doesn't necessarily appear through dramatic behavior. In fact, it usually reveals itself through small increases in warmth, curiosity, and attentiveness towards someone who captures their interest. You might notice that she becomes more emotionally expressive during conversations. Her reactions may feel slightly stronger or more genuine than before. When you share something positive, she celebrates it with you. When you mention a challenge or frustration, she responds with empathy or concern. Instead of simply participating in conversation, she becomes emotionally present within it. And emotional presence is one of the most powerful signals of developing connection. Another sign of this shift is curiosity. During this stage, she may begin asking more questions about your life, your habits, and the things that matter to you. These questions often move beyond simple small talk. Instead of asking only about surface details, she may want to understand how you think, why certain goals matter to you, what motivates you, what experiences shaped you. Curiosity like this usually appears when someone begins seeing another person as more than just a casual acquaintance. It reflects an interest in understanding the person behind the conversation. Supportive behavior may also become more visible. If you mention something you are working toward, she might encourage you or show genuine interest in your progress. She may remember things you told her earlier and bring them up again later, asking how they turned out. This kind of attention shows that your experiences remain in her thoughts even when you are not present. Psychologically, remembering and revisiting these details strengthens emotional bonds because it signals that the interaction holds meaning. You might notice something subtle in the way she responds to your presence. When you enter a room or join a conversation, her mood may brighten slightly, her posture becomes more open, her voice carries a little more enthusiasm. These reactions are often unconscious. The human mind naturally responds with positive emotional energy when it anticipates interaction with someone who sparks curiosity or interest. Over time, these small moments begin forming a pattern. An extra smile, a longer conversation, a supportive comment that feels unexpectedly thoughtful. Gradually, the interaction begins feeling easier. The emotional energy between both people becomes more comfortable, more natural. And this is where something important becomes clear. Before physical attraction ever becomes obvious, emotional awareness often grows first. The mind begins investing attention and care into another person's experiences, and through that attention, connection begins forming. That connection doesn't arrive with a dramatic announcement. It grows quietly through repeated moments of curiosity, warmth, and shared presence. This is why understanding these signals matters. Not so you can manipulate them, not so you can rush them, but so you can recognize the moments when someone is opening the door to deeper connection. Because the truth is, many men miss these opportunities entirely. They focus so much on trying to impress that they forget to observe. They try to prove their value instead of noticing emotional signals already appearing in front of them. But when you slow down and begin paying attention to these subtle behaviors, something interesting happens. You start seeing the hidden language of human connection. Touch that lingers slightly longer. Questions that reveal emotional curiosity. Eye contact that carries quiet meaning. Small invitations to spend time together. Moments of warmth and attention that appear again and again. These are not random behaviors. They are signals that emotional connection is trying to grow. And when those signals are met with patience, respect, and emotional intelligence, something beautiful becomes possible. A connection built not on pressure or performance, but on understanding. At the end of the day, that is what most people are truly searching for. Not perfection, not constant excitement, but genuine emotional connection. The feeling that someone sees them, understands them, and values their presence. So the next time you notice these small behavioral shifts in someone around you, pause for a moment. Observe. Listen. Respond with calm confidence rather than urgency, because attraction that grows naturally often becomes the strongest kind of connection two people can experience. And if you found these psychological insights helpful, take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. Conversations like these help all of us understand human relationships on a deeper level. And of course, if you enjoy exploring the psychology of connection, emotional intelligence, and human behavior, don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Senior Living so you don't miss future discussions. Because the more we understand each other, the more meaningful our relationships can truly become.